Today we're going to review the proper installation, calibration, and operation, including the parameters, of the X-axis digital measuring system for Striebig vertical panel saws. If you're going to be installing the system, it comes in a box similar to this. It might be shaped a little bit differently, but inside the box will be the actual digital display unit itself. This will be wrapped in bubble wrap. I've already unwrapped it, just so you can see it. There will be a permanent magnet mounted into a plate on here. You may very well not have to install this, but we're going to show the installation of this as well. Most machines already have this plate installed on it. It will also include a magnet band and a cover strip that the unit actually slides back and forth and reads, and an end stop and some tools to install the machine, or the device rather, as well as installation and operating instructions. Tools required are really quite simple. A cordless drill, or drill of any kind really, a T20 Torx driver here, and a traditional Phillips screwdriver. The first thing to be done, if it's not done already, and you can simply reach back right here on the far left side of the machine and feel whether this plate with this permanent magnet is there or not. In most cases it already is there, but if it is not, we need to, and the instructions are in the envelope with this magnet plate, to drill a hole and mount it right back here. This is what the unit is going to reference or zero out against, is that permanent magnet. So with the drill bit included in the kit, the smaller one, we locate the drilling hole back here, and I would normally do this from behind the machine. Okay. It's a very quick drilling process because we're only going through a little bit of the thin aluminum. The screw that mounts the plate from the back, you don't have to worry about drilling through the profile and having it exposed right here, because it's actually going to go into the hollow portion of the aluminum profile here. On a compact machine, since you have a solid piece of steel behind the saw here, the instructions will instruct you to drill a 10mm or about a 3/8 inch hole through that plate steel in the back at a particular location, 575mm up from the bottom and 100mm in from the edge, or 4 inches in from the edge and 22 5/8 inch up from the bottom. And you're going to drill a hole, and that will give you access for your drill bit to drill the hole into the aluminum profile and drive your screw. So we're going to mount the plate, and the instructions again will show you the proper orientation of the plate, but the magnet goes on the top side and the plate goes right here. Magnet plate is installed, and the next step in the process will be to lay the magnet band into, there's only one place on the profile where it can possibly go, and that's right along here. The first thing you'd want to do is clean that area of the aluminum profile nicely, and probably wipe it clean for sure with some sort of solvent. Alcohol works quite nicely to make sure it's good and clean and dust free. Okay, so the magnet band and cover strip come coiled up like this. It is two different parts, so we're just going to separate the two of them. The magnet band should be already sized to the appropriate length for your machine based on the kit number that you bought for the machine. So get this masking tape off, and that holds everything together. And again, there you can see that it's two different parts. The magnet band is fairly thick and stiff and easy to peel the yellow tape off the back and stick it right in the profile, and that's going on first. The cover strip is considerably thinner and easy to kink, so we want to be much more careful about the stainless steel cover strip. The stainless steel cover strip really has no function with regard to the reading of the scale or the device. It simply is an aesthetic and protective cover strip. Okay, so here I've laid a temporary magnet band in place where it would go on the machine. Again, I'm peeling and sticking the magnet band, peeling the yellow tape off the backside, starting at the left end of the aluminum and laying in this particular channel. It's about a ½ inch wide, just perfectly shaped for the magnet band, and peeling and sticking. It really couldn't be simpler, and just as far as the magnet band will go on that. And again, it should be the proper length for your machine. After that, we would peel and stick again the thin, delicate stainless steel cover strip right over the top. Again, starting on the left end. Here, you don't really have the channel so much as a guide anymore, so you just need to take a little care and do it nice and neatly over the top of the magnet band itself. I'm not going to put that on in this case because I really want to just show the function of the unit itself, and that works just fine, again, without the stainless steel cover strip, just over the magnet band. So after our magnet band and cover strip are installed, we slide the digital measuring unit on from the end. It comes packaged with a spare set of the rear glide pieces taped to the flap. So we just want to remove those and set them aside. That's, again, an extra set of these glides that keep the unit anchored to the rail here and up against the magnet band. Again, as it glides back and forth thousands of times, these parts will eventually wear, and that's why Striebig gives you an extra set in with the kit. Okay. This one in particular will also, very important, always need to be removed when it comes time to change this battery. We don't want to try to force that battery out without removing that, because you will damage the circuit board behind it. So we remove this, well, right side in your view here, glide piece, and that allows the battery to slide out and be changed. The unit will simply slide on from the left end of the machine, but we do need to make sure that the clamp mechanism is open enough for it to go on the profile. And there we go. After we've slid the unit onto the aluminum profile, the measuring channel, the last part of any assembly that we need to do is to mount the end stop right here to prevent the unit from accidentally going off the left edge. And that simply gets mounted with one screw. Again, Striebig will give you the drill bit to drill a hole in the profile for that screw. The instructions for where to drill that hole are also included in the kit. And again, it's just drilling a through hole and mounting this tapped plate from the underside of the aluminum profile with one screw right there. This will also need to be removed when it comes time to change the battery, because you need to remove the end stop, allow the stop to slide off the end. So now that we've got our device on the machine and we want to set it up, we need to turn the unit on with the left hand button here. The display comes on and flashes what that's saying is to reference. Okay. To reference it, it means finding this magnet that we installed or that's already behind the profile on your machine over here to the left. So we slide it all the way to the left. The display changes to say reset, and it starts reading numbers. Okay? But we need to set up the device properly. So to do that, we need to go into the parameters. Okay? To go into the parameters, and this will always be the case too when you see the display flashing like that. If the display is flashing like that, you need to go into the parameters and go through the initial setup process or the null process. So we press these right two buttons at the same time, and now we're into the parameters. The first one says RES. That's for resolution. How accurately is the device reading? I'm going to bypass that one for right now to go to the setup parameter that I'm looking for, the null one. There's the sleep parameter, the reference parameter when we need to actually calibrate the stop, the unit, whether it's inches or metric, the cut parameter we'll talk more about a little bit later, but it's the spacing between the vertical stations. And there is my null parameter that I'm looking for. What I'm going to do basically is tell the unit where this magnet is back here to zero out a reference from. So to go into any of the parameters, I use the arrow button pointing to the left here, this third button from the left. That gets me into any one of the parameters. It's instructing me to move the stop to the left, and the instructions will tell you to do that very slowly. So I always want to do this setup portion of the device way over here on the left-hand side, so I don't have to go very far. And I go until the message changes. It says reset, and then I very slowly go back to the right until it says null again, and then I press enter to save that parameter. Okay? If I go back out again, or hit enter again, then I'm out of the parameters altogether. So we can move the device and come back and see that it finds the magnet in the back and re-references itself. But I can tell right away that this unit coming out of the box, and this is typical, that it is reading in metric dimensions. Most of us here in North America are still using inches to measure by, so I want to change the parameter to read in inches. Okay? So I go back into the parameters again with the right two buttons. I'm not going to my resolution yet. We'll do that later. Show you what that is. But I go up, past sleep, past reference. There it is, unit. That's the inches or metric. So again, I want to change what I'm reading. So I go into the parameter with the left arrow button. Way up in the corner of the display, you'll see that it says millimeters. I want to change that by using my up arrow here, and now it says inches in the display. To save that setting, again, I press the enter button. It says it stored it. It again shows me what parameter I'm in. If I want to back out of the parameters altogether into the working mode, I hit enter again, and now we're reading in inches. At this point, it says 85.935 inches, or about 85 and 15/16. Let's examine what the other parameters in the setup mode are. So we go back into the parameters. Again, that first one that we keep coming across is the resolution. How accurate is it reading? We have three choices. In terms of inches, again, I'll go into this parameter to show you what the choices are. So there's into the parameters. 5 thousandths of an inch is the most accurate this device will display. It doesn't try to get down to 1/1000th of an inch. That's a little silly when we're talking about woodworking. But 5/1000th of an inch is the most accurate. If I didn't need to spend the time to get to that kind of accuracy, I can change it to 25/1000ths of an inch, which is pretty close to a 32nd of an inch, or 50/1000ths, 0.050, 50/1000ths of an inch, which is closer to a 1/16th of an inch, not exactly. But most people around here will leave it in the initial setting of 5/1000ths of an inch. Okay, I'll save that again, it stores it. If I want to go to my next parameter, I use the up arrow button to go to the next parameter. Sleep refers to how much time, how much inactivity before the unit will put itself to sleep and save the battery. Okay, again, if I go into the parameter, currently right now it's set for a half an hour of inactivity before it will go to sleep. My choices, though, are 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, or again, back to a half hour. Most people will probably leave it on a half an hour because it's not a very big deal if it does go to sleep on you to turn it back on and re-reference it and go right back to work. So why not save the battery a little bit and having to change that. So again, we'll save that parameter and scroll up to the next parameter. That's the reference parameter. We'll discuss that one in a little more detail in a little bit. That's actually calibrating the stop so that the size of the piece that you cut is actually the same as what you're reading on the display. Unit we've talked about and already changed. The next one is a very important one, the cut parameter. I made mention of this earlier. This is the parameter that defines the spacing between your vertical cutting stations on your machine. In North America, most of the machines are brought in 40 inches from station to station. The rest of the world operates in metric, and the spacing between stations is 1 meter from station to station. But it's very important that this be set properly, because if you've moved the saw beam down to another station, you get the opportunity to use this button here when you're in the working mode to add that increment on so that you don't have to do the math. The display unit has already done it for you. But it's obviously very important that it know the correct increment. So let's see where we're set right now. I'm guessing that we'll be 1,000 millimeters because that's normally the way the factory packs this unit in the box. So we'll go into the parameter, and sure enough, there it is. It's 1,000 millimeters. So we would be off in our dimension if we moved the saw beam one station down and then tried to set a measurement with our measuring stop. We'd be off by probably 5/8 of an inch or 1 1/4 inches, depending on how many stations we move down. So we want to change this because this saw is 40 inches from station to station. So again, we'll go. We've already gone into the parameter. We'll use the up button to change it to 40 inches. There's only those two choices: 1,000 millimeters or 40 inches. And you can see again that it says 40 inch there, and that's what we want. So we'll press enter to save that change. And again, if we wanted to come back out, we'd hit the enter button again. But we'll go up, and we know that that next parameter is the null parameter, which we've already used to set up the stop to read the magnet behind the profile here. But again, that parameter is also used if you ever find your display is flashing non-stop. It might even be reading the numbers as you slide the scale back and forth, but it's always flashing at you. The way to stop that is to go into the null parameter and go through that process that we did initially, very slowly coming over and finding the magnet, very slowly coming back until the message changes, and pressing enter again. Okay. The last parameter on the device is LCD. That is simply just a test of the display figures. We can have it go ahead and run that test, just to you can see what it's doing there. It's just testing that all the characters are working. Okay, it runs through its test, comes back and tells you that it's in that parameter, and we can change it. So the one parameter that we haven't really discussed in detail is the reference parameter. Okay, so let's go back to that, and again we want to set this machine up to be measuring properly. When we turn it on, it wants to come already referenced from the main cutting station on your saw, depending on where that station is. So past resolution, past sleep, and there's reference. Okay. First of all, we need to know how far we are off. Okay, so let's pause this for a second and see if we can determine how far, whether we're correctly calibrated or we're off a little bit. So I'm going to back out of this parameter, okay, into the working range. You can see that my display is set up with a number in it. I'm going to go ahead and re-reference it again. Okay, reset. And at least for an initial calibration, I always use the cut line that came right from the factory here, first one closest to my left-hand edge, as a starting point. Because I know that with this machine set up 40 inches on center, I should be exactly 80 inches from my initial, my main cutting station on the saw, right when I'm on the left edge of that cut line. Okay? So it appears, I think my stop is right there on the left edge. Maybe I'm a little bit off, maybe right there. Okay? So I would really want this display at this point to read 80.000 inches across there. So I am 0.175 inches off of where I really want to be when this unit resets itself. Okay? So I'm going to adjust my reference by 0.175, and I want to add 0.175 to the number that pops up in the reference parameter. So I can do this with a stop anywhere on the saw, okay? But I'm going to go into my parameters, like I always, same way I always do. Go up to the reference parameter. Now I'm going to go into this reference parameter, and again, I am not concerned with what number happens to pop up in the display. I just know that I want to change that number positively by 0.175. So let's see what pops up here. I go into the parameter with my left arrow. It says 86.614. I'm going to add 0.175 onto that. So I'm going to change these last three numbers to read 0.789. So the right digit is flashing right now, so I just changed that. Okay, it's only going to let me go to 0. So rather than 79, I'm going to go to 80 as the last two digits. It only lets that last one change to 0 or 5. So I move the digit over with the left arrow button, logically, and I'm going to scroll this up until it says 8. Okay, move the digit over, increase it by 1. That's all the change that I want to make. I'm going to hit enter. It stores it. I'm still in the parameters, so I want to get back out of the parameters. Watch what happens in the display now. 79.990. Maybe my math was a little off. but there's 80.000, and I am pretty close to my left edge of my saw kerf mark. From here, I would want to make test cuts and actually measure my piece with my calipers if I want to get closer than I am here, in order to be very precise. If I made a test cut, say of 2 inches, and I was, 2.015, 15 thousandths of an inch off, which is, around a 64th of an inch. Again, I would go back into those parameters and change the parameter, or change the reference parameter just the way I did there, by 15 thousandths of an inch, save it, and that's how I get to be at least within 5 thousandths of an inch. Of course, one of the other main advantages of this digital measuring system is that all I have to do is get close to the measurement that I want, lock the stop in place, and then with my red thumb wheel on the right hand side here, I can fine-tune that measurement right into exactly the measurement that I want. So now our display is completely set up, and in terms of using the display, it's gone to sleep, or I've turned it off at this point. I turn it back on to reactivate it. It comes on asking me to reference it. I loosen the handle, slide it over to the left until it says reset. Slide it back into play. It comes on referenced from the main cutting station on my saw, which is the 3rd station from the left, as it is on most machines, except for the smallest compact machines, the 4164s. In that case, it would come on referenced from the 2nd station from the left. So this is good all the way to my main cutting station. If I need something, it will only, of course, read up to, well, not even to 81 inches or 85 inches on this machine. But if I need something cut to length longer than that, and I move my beam down 1 station to the right, one of the nice things about this digital measuring system is all I need to do is press this button that says 1000, 2000, 3000, or 1XX, 2XX, 3XX, 1 time, and it's going to add those 40 inches, that increment, that difference between station to station, onto my display. If I've moved the beam 2 stations down, then I need to hit that button again. Again, it adds another 40 inches. On extra long machines, 6-meter machines, I will have another station to the right. The system will take that, can compensate for that as well by hitting the button 1 more time. And again, it adds another 40 inches. If I press the button again, it comes back around and measures from the next station over, or cut station number 2. Okay, so I actually have to press the button 1 more time to get back to my main cutting station. Okay, so there's actually 5 stations of reference built into the stop.